Hello again everyone and welcome back to the crib, and today we've got something a bit special. We're going to be doing something a bit different. We're going to be looking forwards and backwards at the same time. Now that's highly talented stuff, don't you think? I'm quite impressed I actually come up with the idea. But we're having a look at the rugby coming up this weekend, and at the same time we're going to mix up the format of this series. We're going to be having a look at the weekend gone by at the same time. So a little bit of a look at the past, a look at the future, and see what we come up with at the end. So let's get straight into it. Of course, we got the big three in action this weekend. Once again, we've got New Zealand coming up against Wales for the third and final test. That one's all wrapped up. 2-0, the All Blacks have it in the bag. Australia and England, same thing there, except it is the English, of course, up 2-0 in that series. And the biggest one, I think, so far, this is the one I thought would be the whitewash, but it's the only one that is still alive going into the third test, and that is South Africa versus Ireland. Now, of course, there's plenty of action coming around from the rugby world. Argentina is coming up against France, which I think would be an extraordinarily good match to watch as well. The United States are playing Russia, Samoa playing Tonga, and of course, Japan playing Scotland. So we might have a little look at those at the end if we've got time to as well. But let's start things off at the beginning with the first match of last weekend. We have a little look back at that one. The All Blacks up against the Wales. Now that match ended up 36-22 to the All Blacks. But it was another testing display from the Welsh visitors. The game was all locked up at 10 points apiece. And there's a lot of stats being bandied around this week as well about how the All Blacks haven't actually led many of their tests in the last years of their test history. So it's not always a good thing to be leading the All Blacks at half-time, because their second half performances are always extraordinary. Now, of course, we had the injury to Aaron Cruden, which many people would have been going, ooh, oh dear, especially so early, and having to bring on the impact man that is Beauden Barrett, thinking maybe he won't have the same effect and the All Blacks might lose a bit of that spark in that last 20 minutes, but it was not the case. Beauden Barrett, I think, put in one of his best displays all round in an All Black jumper in that matchup. Once again, we talk about the Smiths as well. Aaron Smith, he is such a talisman of this All Black team. I think if he gets in there for a long time, we are going to lose more than we could have by losing the players we lost at the end of the World Cup. He is such a driver of the forward pack. He's an organiser. He has that whole team spinning the way that he wants it to work, and I just think he's such a vital cog between forwards and backs and everyone just going nicely together that a loss of him could be huge. On the other side, I think Ben Smith, doesn't matter where you put the man, he plays at such a high standard countless times. Centre, wing, fullback, God, you put the man at prop, he'll probably play alright as well. He is a freak, and the All Blacks had a great performance from him on the wing, picking up the try as well. He had a great night. The All Blacks eventually, after being drawn all 10 all at the halftime break, what a turnaround this match become. The All Blacks stormed away with some great tries as well, led by Beauden Barrett, who had a hand in almost everything that happened, and they raced away to what seemed like an untakeable lead. But Wales, I have to credit them not only for keeping within the first 40, but you'd have to say they probably finished the stronger of the two sides, having a really good flurry. Liam Williams played exceptionally well. Robertson Davies, we've probably seen the best of those two in that last quarter of that match against the All Blacks in the second test. It was a big comeback from Wales after they seemed out of the game when the All Blacks raced away to a good lead, scoring tries away, going up towards that 36, and Wales didn't go anywhere after half-time. It's that little blitz that often ends the match of the All Blacks, but you got to credit Wales for not putting their heads down and staying in the matchup. So we're heading into test number 3 now. Let's see, the final test is a dead rubber. There's nothing but pride on the line here, but Wales have a lot more to gain in this match than the All Blacks, I feel. All the All Blacks can really do is maybe blood a few players, which they are doing. We'll look at them in a second. But Wales still have the chance to get a win over the All Blacks. I don't mean whatever match it is. It could be a 20-match series and it's 19-0 to the All Blacks. Wales still have a chance to beat the All Blacks, and that is what it comes down to for them. One win would be massive. To go home, winning the dead rubber, they don't care. It's a win against the All Blacks, and that is what their main target was. So the changes coming into the team for New Zealand: Elliot Dixon, a good Southland player from down here in the ITM Cup, Southern Stags. Great to see him getting a start. He replaced Kaino on the blind side. Also on the front row, Faumuina comes in for Franks. Beauden Barrett will start in the place of Cruden, who's still not 100%. Now, this one I can understand where they're going with why they've gone to Barrett, but you gotta feel sorry for Sopoaga. He is on the bench, however, and I'd say we will see him coming on to fill that Beauden Barrett role that we normally see him doing late on in the matchup. Great to see those two getting some time together. Barrett was magical. We know his running game is superb. I just cringe every time he takes a shot off the tee because he can be good, he can be dreadful. Other changes that kind of have me a bit concerned about this backline is George Moala coming in for the injured Fekitoa. So Moala, he's played one test against Samoa where he was on the wing from memory. Didn't play that well, did score a try however, but still I don't know if Moala is really up to international standard. Not top shelf, maybe a bench role backup kind of player, but a starter, I don't know if I like seeing Moala there at all. I would have much preferred to see Tamani Valu get a full starting chance. Now, I know he had glimpses of brilliance in that second test, as well as some absolute horrible plays. His grubber kick ultimately led to a try, which he got flattened by Jonathan Davies' fend. So that was two very bad things for him, but I think overall he played pretty well, and I would have liked to seen some more of Tamani Valu, but he is out of the team altogether. The other change is Julian Savia coming in for Waisaki Naholo. Now, Naholo defensively has been pretty average, but on attack, he has been the number one attacking weapon for the All Blacks, no question. His speed, above all else, has put everyone on the back foot. The ability just to accelerate through the littlest of gaps and get away from all defenders has been his key trump card. We won't see that amazing attacking ability, but I think they will shore up the back three with Savia coming back, and I think it's going to be a pissed off Savia as well. So you better look out, Wales, because the bus is running late and he may be a bit angry. On the Welsh side of things, just a couple of changes, both in the front row, with Jenkins off injured. He has gone home out of here, and Samson Lee out of the starting 15. That means Evans and Francis will come into the front row to start in their place. That's all they've changed, and I think that's probably about the best that Wales is going to manage. They need to keep consistent. They need to keep those weapons that have played well. Liam Williams, Roberts and Davies have started to play very well together as well in their second test. Again, they've got nothing to lose. This is their chance to come out and take a test off the All Blacks. Can they do it? We'll find out when the game gets underway this weekend, but this is a big chance for them. The first test was a chance, and the way they played in the first test, that equated to the second, and now the third also being a really good chance for the Welsh. I'll go on a limb and give my prediction for this one, 32-24, the All Blacks to take it. Again, like we've seen all series long, tight contest, 50-60 minute mark, the All Blacks should blitz away with it, and Wales, credit to them again, we'll say it 100 times, but I love the way they don't give up, and they claw and fight their way back into the game. And we're playing at Forsyth Bar Stadium in Dunedin, a place that is always dry, of course, with the roof, always a hard surface, great for running rugby. Atmosphere is pretty much in the players' faces. It's going to be a fantastic game. I'm kind of annoyed I didn't get myself tickets for it, only a couple of hours drive away. Would have loved to have gone to this matchup, but alas, we'll be watching it on the screen tonight when she gets underway. But that is my call for the game, 32-24, All Blacks to pull out the win. Okay, so on to the second series of the weekend, and it's Australia versus England, of course. Now, I thought this was going to be the series that was hotly contested. I picked the Wallabies to win the first test, to win the second test. They didn't do neither. In fact, the second test was an absolute thrashing, 23-7 over Australia, and what was the difference? I mean, the first test was pretty close. This one, although it was within one converted try, was it 13-7 or something like that for a good portion of the second half. In Australia, they were knocking on the door. They were pitching the tent down. They were making campfires in the English 22. That's how well they were into the English try line, but they just couldn't get over the line. And that is my key point from that matchup. Defence. That's it. England's defence was phenomenal. But don't credit England too much, I don't think, because Australia's attack was clueless. I mean, they had no idea. Israel Folau made some half breaks because of how elusive a running player is. He's strong, he's fast. But the rest of them, I just had nothing. They'll go side to side, almost like an out-of-form Crusaders. Hayden Petty would get outside and just get bundled away. Then they'll go back out to the left side and Rob Horn would be out there. Karevi would be out there. And they'll just have no idea what they're really trying to achieve. They're just trying to play the barge and run game, which is something that I think Australia has messed up quite convincingly. They've seen England, first test, picking their team, going with Burrell and Joseph. Now, two very direct, run at the defensive line and make a hole. That's the kind of players they are. Australia's gone, right, they're going to play the charge and run game. We're going to match it and put Karevi and Kurandrani. Now, Eddie Jones, he's a smart man. He worked it out pretty quickly. That tactic wasn't really going to work too well, and he switched things around very, very quickly in his centres. Cheika in Australia didn't. I mean, they had another playmaking 12 they could put in there in Leali'ifano. Form or no form, I don't think Leali'ifano's that badly out of form, but he gives them that option that takes the pressure off of Bernard Foley, and we know that Bernard Foley plays a lot better when the pressure isn't all stacked on him. They isolate him, they target him. If he has a 12 who can play the ball, take some pressure at first receiver, it gives Australia, it gives Foley a bit of time, a bit of room, and makes him a lot better team. I think Karevi, as well as he played, I'm not saying he played badly, but he was just the wrong sort of player. Karevi needs to come on for Kurandrani if they're going to make a sub. Put Karevi on the wings. I don't think they can play a 12 and 13 combo that is just bull running straight into the defensive line. And I think that may be where they've lost out. But they are making a change. We'll get to those in a second. But on England's side of things, their defence was phenomenal. We've said that already. But big difference, I think, was the Ford-Farrell combination at 10 and 12. That was huge. It really did what we just spoke about and what it does for Australia. It gives them more time, it gives them options, it makes the defence be in two minds about who is going to attack at first receiver, and I think that ultimately just gives that couple of seconds more that makes a big difference. Other than that, the forward pack of England. Eddie Jones has got them working like a finely tuned engine. The back row, phenomenal. The second row, exceptional. The front row even, doing the job in the scrums, in the dirty work. They're clearing out the ruck. They're not getting bogged down. I just think overall, Jones has got this team operating very, very well. They know their jobs. They know their roles. They've spoken about that in interviews as well. Everyone knows what they've got to do. Everyone knows their job. No one is trying to do too much. They're just doing what they need to do, and that is really a basic for rugby, about everyone having their job to do and responsibility about what you have to do out there on the field. In England are taking that, and it's becoming really good for their team as a group, and the results, aren't they showing very, very well? Now, Australia's attack, as we spoke of, was an absolute mess. The changes they've made are really only one that's going to maybe rectify that. They've made three altogether, and two of them are in the second row with Rory Arnold and Sam Carter out. And they have Will Skelton and Simmons coming in to the second row to replace them. In the back line, though, this is the big one. Matt Tamula finally coming back, and he will replace Karevi, which that is the change that has to be made. I'm kind of annoyed they didn't put Leali'ifano in there, give him a shot at 12. I think they could have changed their game a bit more than when they used him off the bench. Start him there and get them off to a good start. Tamua, he has a great running game, and he's a guy who's going to make the gaps and slide through spaces, create overlaps. He's a clever player, and he's just that difference from what Karevi is. He's a 10, playing with a bit of freedom, and I think that is going to help Australia very, very much. I think they're going to be a lot better team on attack this week in the third test. On the English side, we have Tamana Harrison coming in for the injured Haskell. Now, Haskell has been an absolute machine for England over the opening 2 tests, but it's wrapped up. He's injured. No big loss. It's good to see they're going with a new player, with Harrison coming in to the 15. What's he going to have an effect on this game? I'm interested to see how he plays. I haven't seen him playing at all, so that's always going to be good to see how he adapts to test level. And that's the only change they've made, injury enforced, but as they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The third test talking points for me are going to be where the pressure is sitting, and it's firmly sitting on the shoulders of the Wallabies. There's no question about that. They have gone down 2-0 to England. That simply is not good enough for Australia. England, they have the freedom now. They're 2-0 up. They know they can't lose the series. Sure, they'd love to whitewash it and go 3-0, but they can play with a bit more freedom, a bit less pressure on them, and I think that's just going to make them play even better. The confidence, knowing that you've won the series, and it doesn't matter what happens out here, you've gone and you've beaten Australia on their own soil in a 3-test series. Key matchups for me are not only in the second row, where Atolche will be up against Skelton. That's going to be a big one. 2 young players, 2 big, strong, ball-running players. Different kind of body build. Skelton probably a bit bigger and bulkier, but Atolche is very, very strong for his side. So, although he may give up a bit of weight, he will not give up on strength. You can guarantee that. But the biggest one for me is going to be 10 and 12 versus 10 and 12. Ford and Farrell versus Foley and Tamua. That is going to be the massive matchup, and that, I think, will decide this game. I think the experience of Ford and Foley should get them a bit more of an advantage. And what are we going to see from Tamua? We haven't seen him recently. He's been out. So are we going to see the best of Tamua? Are we going to see the best he can offer? That is going to be what the question marks are for me in this third test between Australia and England. So England won the second test 23-7. My prediction for the third, I've gone with Australia twice, and now I'm probably going to go with England and they'll lose it. But I'm going to say England 27-12. I say they're going to do it easily again. If their defence is anything like it was in the second test, I can't see Australia getting any more than a couple of tries. England just look good on attack. They've got ball-running players. They've got the playmakers in the back line. They're always ready. They're always set. And I think it's going to be too good for Australia, who are now in a world of trouble. A complete world of trouble, heading into what will be the Rugby Championship soon, playing South Africa and the All Blacks, Argentina. What a season this could be for Australia. A season of absolute despair. How will it turn out? We're going to see what goes on in this third test, and future of Australian rugby looks a bit sad at the moment, but I'm going with England, which means that Australia will probably win. That's how good my picks are. Okay, so third and final big test of the last weekend of the June Internationals. That's the Irish touring South Africa. Now this one is at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium in Port Elizabeth. These two sides have never met at the stadium, and South Africa will be desperately keen to not let Ireland take a series victory and obviously a winning record at a new stadium. But let's go back a week and take a look what happened in the second test. And the second test started very much like the first test ended. It was all Ireland because South Africa were just so sloppy. They were careless, they were reckless, and they threw away all their chances, all the ball. They were just looking bad. Such a good side. I just can't understand why they cannot gel as a team. Ireland, at one point with 18 minutes to go, were leading 26 points to 10. 18 minutes left. 16-point lead. You'd say that game is in the bag, but that's not how it happened at all. The Lions from Super Rugby, they made their biggest impact of the international season. Ryan Combrink. Now this man, he's had a superb Super Rugby season, but he's come into the Springboks alongside his good Lions buddies, the likes of Yantis, the likes of Whiteley as well, coming off the bench. Really picked the game up by the scruff of the neck, and then we've seen cameos from the likes of D'Allendy started getting to the game late on. Willie LaRue started making an impact. The back row started doing their job a bit better with Whiteley getting his expertise in there. The Lions ultimately made the difference to win this match for South Africa. They come back, that's right, from 26-10 down to win 32-26. That is 22 unanswered points in the last 18 minutes. As for Ireland, they relied on penalties, and they did what they had to do. They kept the scoreboard ticking over, they kept their lead ticking over, and they did a bloody good job of it as well. But when South Africa click, like I've been expecting all series long, they are just too good. And I fear if they can do that in the Rugby Championship, they will be the best team in rugby. They are just too good when they click. But I'm going to go back to it again. Ireland, I thought, should have been smashed in this series. It should have been 3-0, 30-point wins for the Africans every single game. But no. So Ireland really has been my surprise side from the series. And this series I thought would be not the worst to watch, but the least competitive to watch. Has ended up being the only series that has gone to a third test decider. Unbelievable stuff. Devon Toner, Craig Gilroy, Petty Jackson all had superb games for Ireland as well. Toner, the second rower, has just had a great form this season as well, coming in, making some big plays, stopping defensively and attacking. Very hard running, hard to stop as well. Gilroy, he's been outstanding for the Irish as well, coming in the second test and making a really good impact for the visitors. Okay, so we're going to look forward to the third test here at Port Elizabeth and the changes that have been made for South Africa. Warren Whiteley gets the start thanks to the injury to Dane Vermeulen, so he's completely out of the 23. And Ruan Combrink, the man we spoke of before, is in for Luazi and Volvo, who makes his way out of the 15. I think that's good changes, and Volvo's been pretty good, but Combrink is just that finisher. He scores tries. That's what he does. He doesn't do ridiculous stuff. You get players that do things that they're not really meant to do, but you say, well, that's good, he can do that sort of stuff. But Combrink scores tries. He's a winger. He's a finisher. He gets to the end of overlaps. He catches the ball, he beats defenders, and he scores tries. That's what we've seen from him in Super Rugby all season, and South Africa are finally starting to see the light about how good these Lions players are. Yantes, de Klerk, Mapu in the backline, Combrink now, Whiteley. Also, they've got Jaco Kriel on the bench. I mean, the Lions are the best South African team in Super Rugby. There's a reason. Put them together and they will perform. That's what we've seen after the halftime whistle at the second test is what I'm trying to spit out. As for Ireland, it's the same thing. Combinations are a pretty big deal. And the changes they've made, injury to Jared Payne, we'll see O'Halloran starting his place at fullback. Also, Luke Marshall is coming in for Robbie Henshaw, also out with an injury. CJ Stander comes back from his red card suspension. He replaces Rue, who goes out of the starting 15. That means that Ian Henderson will go back to the second row. That means that Stander will go back to 6. Geordie Murphy's coming back in for Ruddock at 7. So plenty of changes around that second and third row for Ireland, but I think this is their best side, and this is their best chance to pull out a win. And as we said, third test decider. The only series I thought definitely would be over 2-0 is the one series that has gone to a third test. It's really a massive surprise. Ireland, I think, has been the most impressive side, and they've got a big chance here to win this game. They had a good performance in the second test. They just looked a bit tired, I think, late on in that game when South Africa started coming back. If they can keep fitness up for 80 minutes, this could be a series win for Ireland. I'm not putting it past them. I've watched 2 matches now in disbelief at how Ireland have won. I mean, that first test was just, it was jaw-dropping the way that they played. The second test, they fell off the pace, but you got to say they should have won it. This series could be over 2-0 as well. Quite easily, Ireland could be celebrating another famous victory. But I just cannot put myself past the Springboks winning this series. Their team is just too good, and especially with the addition of 2 Lions players into the starting 15, more on the bench as well. I just think it's got to gel. We've seen the second half. If they can play a full 80 like that, I think they're going to be the best team in the world this season. If they can play a full 80 as a gelled unit. If not, we've seen how bad they can be, and we've seen how bad they can go as well. Just ask Japan last year. What are we going to see from South Africa this year? I do hope they start to click and we see some fantastic rugby in this final match of these 3 test series. My pick, big call, but I just cannot look past the amazing Lions players in South Africa. I really do love the Lions, and I'm going to pull them up here. 24-22, South Africa over Ireland, and they're going to steal victory from the jaws of defeat by an absolute slender margin. Alright, so that wraps me up for a look back and a look forward at the same time. Okay, I know you might have a sore neck, but it's alright, we can move through that. Now, we'll have a little quick look at these final matches. Argentina-France. I'm really excited to see this one. I think it could be a fantastic matchup. I'd love to see Argentina win, but we saw France was quite good throughout the beginning stage of the Six Nations. It is an away match for the French, however. Argentina, are we going to see an increased performance after their time in Super Rugby? I do hope so, but I've got France to come over the Argentinians in this one. It'll be a close one, I think, but I hope to see an improvement from the Pumas in this matchup. Samoa versus Tonga is another one, which I think is going to be absolutely phenomenal. I really don't know who to pick. I'll go with Samoa, but Tonga and Samoa are so evenly matched. I think this will be a great game to watch. If you can catch it, get in and watch it as soon as you can. The United States up against Russia. That one is in Sacramento. Got to back the great USA for that one. They should take out the Russians without too much problem. And our final one, Scotland up against Japan. A lot of you spoke about it in the last week's episode of this. Scotland and Japan. This is a good series, but I think the Scots far too good. They made a lot of changes for the second test. They did it quite well in the first test between the two as well. So I think Scotland will do it again. They are looking quite good this year. Six Nations didn't really go 100% their way, but I think Scotland is really on the improve. They've got a lot of young talent. Japan, great for them to get the exposure against these second-tier kind of nations. They are really coming up in the world, Japan, and the World Cup is only going to help them. But Scotland should come out with another win here over the Japanese side. Alright, so that wraps me up for today. Thank you everyone for tuning in and watching. Let me know what your picks and selections are for the matches we just spoke about in the comments below. Of course, you can also hit me up on Twitter when the matches are ongoing and have a bit of a yarn if you'd like. I should be up watching these cracking matches. Should be a great weekend of rugby yet again. But thanks for tuning in and watching. Hope you've enjoyed this little look back and forward at the same time. Do you like this format better rather than the two separate looks between the matches last weekend and the preview for the next weekend? Let me know your thoughts on that as well, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care.